So basically what we learned in like yesterday is that it's always great to hear more actually on this evergreen topic of content update strategies and eventually the snapshots. So what the whole idea behind, and where we see that this can be really helpful, is that the whole approach with the translation proxy, the original idea was that the proxy works real time, meaning that every time the visitor is coming to see the translated page, we always fetch the original page and apply the translation that you provided on the fly. And that can lead to not just to breathe through, but it can also yield to a lot of spontaneous content ingestion. So what we heard yesterday as well, which was the case, because this content can come from like unstructured content, it can be like error messages, it can be temporary content that the client is not really intended to translate, or it can be just simply too much. And because there is like a price to money consequence, so there must be some kind of solution for the situation. So in this next couple of slides, I'm going to talk you through not just one, but quite a few possible solutions, which will end up with the snapshot and also the auto pre-translate as a possible solution for this whole domain. So basically, with very early on, we realized that even though this very dynamic nature of the translation proxy, that we can translate things on the fly, and then also we can detect new content on the fly. So every time, basically, whenever a visitor is coming to the translated and published page, because we fetch the original source page, we can very easily, and at no extra cost, we can detect the new content if there was new content added to the original site. And if that's added, then we can certainly add it to our own dictionary, and then later on, you as a translation company can take care of the translation. However, what seemed originally like a very simple and straightforward idea, it turned out later on that it is not always the case, and that people not always want to be that up to date and ingesting so many content. So the very first solution to this was to actually use and implement the freeze page list, so the page freeze feature, which means that new content is only added from existing pages. This can be very useful if no query parameters are configured carefully, or very simply, we can specify the scope with the client. So by the end of the initial setup period, it can be agreed that unless they are very specific, they do not want new pages on the site to be automatically added. So in this case, this freeze page list setting can be very, very useful. Once this is turned on, we only add automatically new content when people are viewing the translated pages, if they are on previously configured pages. The other important feature here is the freeze translation memory that you can see on my screen. And basically what it does is it stops automatically adding any kind of new content. So if the client wishes to add any content, that can be done only through the crawler. And this way, whenever you sign the contract with them, you absolutely have to agree and discuss with them what is the intended update cycle that they would like to stick to. And this, on one hand, depends on their publishing cycle, their update cycle, how frequently they update their website, maybe specific to the landing page, but also all the pages around. And this way, it can be made a very conscious process where they explicitly have to agree on when new content is added. So we highly recommend that these settings to be turned on once the initial setup is over and the initial translation and the contract is signed. So this is a very, very powerful setting to prevent any kind of unpleasant surprise or any kind of not intended content to be added to the system. But if these settings are turned on, then it can still be that not just a manual content crawling is required, but the client can still say that I would like to crawl the website automatically every day, or maybe every week, or every month. So as part of the crawl wizard, it's very easy to configure the recurrence. And this way, with all the predefined settings here, it's very easy to ask the proxy to just do the same thing again and again and again. And this way, it will add to the main dictionary the source content, and you will have the chance to handle it as usual. Now, these looked very, very fine up for a great while, but we still, along this almost 10-year-long journey, we received still complaints. So one very typical scenario was that you had the chance to agree with the content owner on the list of pages, on the number of words, and then you created the XLIF file, you started to do the translation, and by the end of the project, all the words that you received, it was translated. And no words has been added to Easyling for sure. However, what happened is that if the client changed the website in the meanwhile, maybe they just changed a single comma, or they changed any kind of content maybe on the landing page, it was an actual situation that resulted to newly translatable content. And it yielded to a situation where the launch of the website had to be delayed of the translated versions, and those deltas, even they were just one single paragraph, had to be carried out before the launch could happen. So keeping this in mind, it yielded to the snapshot feature, and I'm going to talk more today about the origin, the source snapshot feature. So what we can do here is, once the snapshot is enabled, we can take at a given point in time a snapshot of the entire website. Well, or at least all the pages that is visited by the crawler. So it can include the HTML for sure, and the CSS, the JavaScript, whatever is required. So what it makes possible is the time travel. So this way, you can freeze the entire website in time, and even if they change the original website, you still have a frozen piece of the website, which you have time to fully translate. And this way, we can always present a fully translated website to all the visitors. However, of course, that might be a little bit outdated compared to the initial version of the site. And while we do have options to support like staging servers and staging environment, we did come across quite a few situations where the website owner, so the client, was not disciplined enough. So they did not use any kind of workflow or disciplines or staging server or whatsoever, but they definitely wanted to have a fully translated site, and they were okay with having that website outdated. So basically, with the snapshot, the recommended workflow is that whenever you are about to sign a binding contract and provide a fixed word count for the client, to create a snapshot. And that's something you can lean on, and always present the client as a kind of proof that at that given point in time, this is how their website looked, and then you can translate it, and then you did all the translation work that's required. However, it can be, of course, very tedious to build this. So we integrated, on one hand, this feature into the crawler. So once the snapshot is enabled under the snapshot menu, when you create the crawler and you do the content extraction scan, then you have the chance to select a snapshot building or snapshot updating strategy that you can see on the, just a sec. On the bottom of my screen. So basically, this way it is possible to selectively update a given source cache, a source snapshot. And of course, it is possible that you can build different multiple snapshots. So this is very useful that you can, once the initial translation project is done, then you can just serve those pages built on a given snapshot, a given point in time, and you can just build a new snapshot to be used for the next iteration, for establishing the delta and working of that. And basically, once the second snapshot is created, you can work for the translation. And once the proofreading and everything is available, then you can just switch the serving of the website to this new snapshot. And this way, there is always a fully translated version of the site that can be presented to the client. And now it is possible to present different versions for the different proxy modes. So it is possible that a single snapshot is used for the live mode, and different snapshot versions are used for the proofreading or the translation mode in the system. And to make it fully automated or get closer to that, it is possible, once the snapshot is enabled, to configure what we call a round-robin snapshot taking with the crawling. So whenever you go back to the recurrence mode in the crawler, you have the chance not just to configure the how frequently the site should be crawled, but you can also configure to use a different source snapshot for every crawl. So basically what it does is that it creates, whenever the crawler triggers, then it creates a new snapshot, a new source snapshot, and stores every page in that whenever it's automatically running. And so the idea here is that those snapshots will be named, so you will be able to pinpoint which snapshot was created at which or updated at a given point in time, so that your team can always be in control of what's visible to the visitors of the website. And it also gives a peace of mind. So if anything was going wrong, you can always just go back in time to a previously known fully working version of the website. And one last thing that can be very, very useful here when we are talking about new content and how to handle it, and that's the magic tool of the auto pre-translate, or APT as we tend to call it. And the whole idea is to be able to offer the client continuous translation delivery, or absolutely hands-off configuration. So after the initial translation and crawl and configuration and publishing and everything, this way we can configure Easyling so that whenever a new content is detected in the system, whether it's coming from this automatic content detection, or whether it's coming through the crawler or whatsoever, what should happen to it? And basically with auto pre-translate, we have a few preset configuration, which can be highly customized as well. So the idea here is that whenever the new content is coming in to the system, we can apply the existing translation memory. So the TMX that's uploaded to the system, and all the translation that's been carried out in Easyling and confirmed, they make it to the TMX. And to this newly incoming content, if the content is translated with, it's possible to be translated with the pre-configured translation threshold levels, then we are good. For the rest of the content, it can be passed on to an external machine translation engine. And finally, we can pass on these segments to external systems as well. So it is possible to use like a translation management system, maybe as simple as a Dropbox folder. And throughout the work packages, we can configure which segment should go into which work package, and then of course which external system. The idea here that we had in mind is that whatever is fully translated from the translation memory, about 99% leverage, there it requires no further human interaction. However, whatever is lower, or maybe it was translated in machine translation, can be passed on for post-editing. And the two rules that you can see here in my screen, it allows to configure the website. So maybe certain sections of the website, like the landing page, should be or could be machine translated, but requires a post-editing. While other sections of the website, like it happened to the COVID frequently updated sections of the site, it is possible just to do a quick machine translation for any kind of new content that's spotted on it. And then there is no further post-editing required for those sections of the website. And so this way, with this all these settings and configurations and the auto pre-translate, we can offer a lot of possibilities to the client on how to handle the bleed-through. So the bleed-through, as we came across, is what to do basically with the new content that the site owner makes to the original website. So just to summarize, we have quite a few options where the initial idea is very simple, the bleed-through, where the new content simply becomes available and visible to the visitors of the translated site. However, if this is not good enough, then with the auto pre-translate, you can offer them to do a quick machine translation followed by a post-editing or a human translation. So this way, these gaps can be filled in quickly, first with a machine translation and then with a human post-editing. So this way, the translated website, the translated pages are always up to date, but sometimes the quality can be lower. However, if in certain situations this is not acceptable by the client, then you can offer the snapshot feature. This way, their foreign language websites will be always 100% translated, but sometimes they will be a little bit outdated compared to the original site. So this is basically the scale that you can offer to them. And then depending on their update strategy, it's always possible to find the proper workflow to the client. Just one thing which is very important, don't forget to manage the expectations, because if the client knows that what's going to happen, then there is no surprise factor, and then we can find the best solution for everyone. So this would be my first section on this auto pre-translate, and just my closing words here is just you should never forget to use these page freeze and dictionary freeze options. So this way you are always in control of the budget and on what content you are adding. And just in case if you see some error messages showing up, then it is always possible to use the regular expression feature, so that even if you had to leave the site open for new content, that can prevent a lot of new segments being recorded and unfortunately being charged as well by the proxy.